Hi, everybody. I'm Corky Carricker, and this is Historic Metals. Today, we're time traveling back to 100 to 135 years BC, where we're going to learn about how a very tiny coin made a very big ripple in history, how it became historic metal. Stay tuned, and let's get right into it. But first, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and ring that notification bell so that you can be alerted anytime I go live with auctions, giveaways, or other events. Also, be sure to keep up on our blog over at historicmetals.com, where we're constantly publishing new professionally written articles about great treasures from history. I think you'll enjoy it, and I hope to see you there. Once again, I'm Corky K. This is Historic Metals. Let's go back in time. You've probably heard of a widow's mite, a tiny coin mentioned in the Bible. There's a story written about it in both Luke and Mark in the New Testament of the Christian Bible. In the New Testament Gospels of Luke and Mark is one of the most famous passages in the Bible, and that is what we call the lesson of the widow's mite. Now, this is not a religious channel, and we're not always going to talk about Christian coins, but I am excited because I recently received one of the oldest coins in my collection. It is the oldest coin in my collection now. A coin from 100 to 135 years BC, a genuine widow's mite. And here it is. Now, this is in a Numismatic Guarantee Corporation slab, which authenticated and dated this coin. There are a lot of these coins around. They are not uncommon. They were very, very prevalent back in biblical times and printed for 50 or 100 years. Printed, I say minted, I mean, for a long time through multiple kings. So they're basically dated to a period. I will elaborate on what the coin is and how it's made and what it's worth in a moment. But I just want to give you some shots of the one that I have here. And as you can see on the container, the slab, it says that it's from Judea, that it was during the Maccabean Kings period from 135 to 137 BC, that it is in fact a almost excellent Prutah example. And from there I've gotten blurry. But the rest of that basically says that it's mentioned in the Bible verses that I also mentioned earlier, and that it is known as a biblical widow's mite. There we go. So one close look at that, and then I'll bring in some close-up pictures so that you can see it in its detail and maybe some better examples. And I'll tell you about how this tiny coin, this little bitty piece of a coin, became a part of history. Oh, just one more thing. This coin, at the time of its use in biblical times and in the times mentioned in the stories in the New Testament, was considered to be worth about 6 minutes of labor. So imagine that as 1/10 of an hour. Today's money, imagine I have a typical American out there making a $10 an hour wage in their town. They would be getting approximately $1 for that amount of time. And here we have a 2022 American silver $1. Now, of course, that's worth much more than $1 for a number of reasons that can be covered in another video. But just to represent a metal dollar, there in fact is a metal dollar worth about 6 minutes of labor in America compared to this tiny coin struck by probably trusted members of the royal circle that were chosen to forge the coins for the kings. So these coins, again, not rare. They are found in hoards. They're found in buried pots, and they were hidden. There's a lot to the history. But because many of them exist, they can be had for less than $50. Or you can get proper graded, authenticated examples, and those go for a little more. Of course, the condition of the stamp on them as well really affects their value. We'll talk about that. So with that, let me set these down and turn my attention back to showing you closer pictures and telling you more about this amazing little piece of history, this ancient 2,130, 50, 60-year-old coin. In the New Testament of Gospels of Luke and Mark is one of the most famous passages of the Bible that has come to be known as the lesson of the widow's mite. It is about a poor widow who offered 2 small copper coins in a church's offering, while people with more money around her made much larger offerings. When Jesus observed this happening at the temple in Jerusalem, he said, according to Luke, "Truly I tell you, this poor woman has put more in than all of them, for they all contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all she had to live on." The bronze coins of this story were not described in any detail, leaving it to scholars and numismatists to try and discern what specific coins were offered by the widow. They're widely believed to be what are known as lepton, which means small or thin coins, minted by Alexander Jannaeus, king of Judea from 103 to 76 BCE, and the great-grandnephew of King Judah Maccabee. 2 lepta were worth a quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, and a lepton was the least valuable coin that circulated in Judea. The term mite, which is used today, did not exist at the time the coin circulated. They only became known as mites many centuries later. Mite, as used here, means small cut piece in Old Dutch, and only came into use in the 14th century in Flanders. It's also used in the King James Bible, which brought the term and the widow's mite story to many millions of people beginning in the year 1611. Several types of small bronze pieces were issued during the rule of King Alexander Jannaeus, but the most common featured an anchor and a star. Anchors were often featured on coins of the time and for the next century because of the importance of the seacoast and the Holy Land. These coins were among the first struck after Jews were granted authority to issue their own coins by Syrian authorities. In addition, a lepton was equal to 1/2 of a prutah, a small bronze coin about the size of a small fingernail, and that's what we've been looking at today, a prutah. Lepta were about the same diameter as Prutah, plural for Prutah, but were thinner and weighed half as much. During the Maccabean or Hasmonean period, as this is known, the Greek silver drachma is believed to have been valued at 336 lepta or 168 prutah, while a shekel was worth 384 prutah. A Roman denarius was worth about 96 prutah. Of the prutah and lepta issued by Alexander Jannaeus, the most common ones had on their reverse an anchor and King Alexander in Greek, reflecting the influence of Greek culture, while the reverse had a star with 8 rays and sometimes Hebrew letters between the rays or around the rim. Researchers believe these small, low-value bronze coins circulated widely and were plentiful at the time. They were made about a century before they were allegedly offered by the widow and continued to be made for over 100 years. For centuries, these coins have been found in the Holy Land and then sent to other markets to be sold. As a result, many exist in the coin market today. However, most of them do not have clear details and are worth $50 or less, despite being so old and having a connection to the Bible. Well-preserved examples, however, can be worth as much as $350 or more. Certified specimens in high grade for under $100 are always a good buy. While ancient coin researchers and experts in other fields mostly agree that the coins known today as widow's mites were likely the issues of Alexander Jannaeus, as explained above, it is also possible that one or both of the widow's coins were foreign, such as Phoenician bronzes. Because there's no way to be certain what coins they actually were, and there are many coins from different eras, rulers, and kingdoms that were circulating at the time, the Numismatic Grading Corporation decided to extend the widow's mite designation to any small Maccabean bronze coin issued from 135 to 137 BC, as per the example that I showed earlier in the video. This decision is supported by David Hendon, the author of the Guide to Biblical Coins, which is the definitive book on the topic, who's also a curator at the American Numismatic Society, a leading authority on ancient and historic and vintage and old antique coins. And they've noted that while there's a long-standing tradition of the Jannaeus anchor star coins being considered the widow's mite, this has less to do with actual evidence and more with the fact that since mid-19th century, pilgrims visiting Jerusalem have found these pieces there and brought them back home. Hendon adds, the truth is that any Prutah or half-Prutah coins of the Maccabees Herod I and his son Archelaus, or the prefects of Judea, up to the death of Jesus, could possibly have qualified to have been a widow's mite. There's a lot of things out there that proclaim to be a widow's mite, but there is basically a consensus that it is a coin with the sun on one side and an anchor on the other. And with that, that's the story of the widow's mite and how they fit into history. So other things that we know about them are that the word mite is from the 1611 King James Bible translation, lepton being the word used in the original Greek language. So while scripture references only the lepton due to the commonalities of these two coins, today both coins are commonly referred to as widow's mites. In fact, the lepton is probably the lowest denomination coin ever struck by any nation in all of history. The value of these coins during the time of Christ was typically based on combined weight with other coins and not on the individual coin's value. So to say that again, these are the smallest coins ever made for anyone in history and mankind. And they weren't even used individually. You basically traded by the weight of what you had. It was just a way to carry around chipped up copper for the most part, with the king's blessed stamp on it. Ancient Jewish coins were produced only during a 268-year period and then not continuously. The period began during the Hasmonean dynasty in 134 BC and ended with the conclusion of the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 CE. The lepton and Prutah coins of Alexander Janius were probably minted after the conquest of the coastal cities in 95 BC, with the exception of Ashkelon. The anchor probably publicizing the annexation of these areas until his death in 76 BC. These coins were carelessly and crudely struck, usually off center and on small flans, and because they circulated for such a long period, they are usually worn. They are rarely well enough struck or preserved to allow reading of the tiny Hebrew letters between the spokes of the wheel. Alexander Janius was the first of the Jewish kings to introduce the 8-ray star symbol. In his bronze widow's mite coins, in combination with the widespread Selichud numismatic symbol of the anchor, he was also the first Jewish ruler to use the title king on his coins and was the first to mint bilingual Jewish coins. The obverse is in Greek and the reverse is in Hebrew. The coinage of Alexander Janius is characteristic of the early Jewish coinage in that it avoided human or animal representations in opposition to the surrounding Greek and later Roman types of the period. Jewish coinage instead focused on symbols, either natural, such as the palm tree, the pomegranate, or the star, either man-made, such as a temple, the menorah, trumpets, or perhaps a cornucopia. The bronze Prutah, produced between 100 and 135 years BC, and the bronze lepton, same period. Amazing coins to have in your collection, and just really inconceivable to imagine how they were used, who used them, and how the fact that the very coin I have here in this slab could have been in the hands of anyone in biblical times, even someone from the Bible themselves. Stay tuned till next time, when we either travel further back in history or enjoy some modern bullion together on historic metals. Thanks for tuning in. I've been Corky K. You've been historic, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.